After 200 plus days, the truck is now back in Florida, but things did not go as planned. She's okay, everybody's okay. Now I just gotta wait for the cops to get here. The car wash has stopped. I'm in the middle of it and it just stopped. Essentially, the entire block had to be remachined out. Cool. Later, but I think you guys got us in there. It is 4 in the morning. Very, very tired, but I am on the way to get to the truck, which I'm very happy about. You may have heard me talk about, maybe, I don't know if on here, but on the podcast, about how I used to work at a concrete plant, and that is where this truck originated. And I know that sounds really weird, why I'd be so tied to a career that I'm not a part of, but it's also tied to basically my best friends. So yeah, that's kind of where this whole thing started. So this truck originally started off as a sales truck for the concrete company that I used to work for. One of the salesmen used to drive it around, go out to calls and stuff like that. Yeah, that's essentially how it was bought. It was originally black, and then at some point it was painted in the company color, so it was orange underneath of it. Now what's interesting is that company, one of the salespeople there, not the person who actually owned or drove this truck, but is that another associate. Sorry, I'm really tired, so I'm gonna do my best here. That other salesperson, their son, is one of my best friends. His name is Clayton. If you've been watching my content for a long time, you already know who Clayton is. But Clayton and I started my old channel, which is Piston Head Productions. It was Automotive Mods, if you want to go way far back. His brother Garrett was the other person that started it with me. So yes, between those two brothers, who are two of my best friends, that is where that started. Finally made it. Here, RLC Motorsports, Cooksville. So pumped. I haven't seen the truck yet, but I'm just happy to be here. We are back. The truck is back on the road. So pumped. I do have to make a stop at Driven Luck Circuit. That was the gentleman who helped me out. And yeah, maybe go see some drifting. But yeah, super pumped. Okay, so I've gotten about 2 hours of driving in with the truck. Very, very happy. I'm keeping it ginger, just going light, trying to not do anything too crazy because, you know, don't want to hurt it. I do know that some people say that you got to break it in like you're going to drive it, but right now that's the case because I'm going to baby this thing. That being said, catching up on the importance of this truck. So yes, Clayton and Garrett's dad, worked for the same company as this truck came from, the concrete plant. And eventually when Steve, the guy who owned this truck, wanted to sell it, Clayton ended up buying it. And this was right around the same time that we started all of our YouTube stuff. So this truck very early on was a big part of what we did. It was the tow vehicle, it was the off-road vehicle, it was the recovery vehicle. It was all of those things for us. And we spent a lot of time in it. We took it to the first ever Grid Life. It was the truck that got us to the first time I ever really experienced drifting in person. It's where I fell in love with drifting. So yeah, this truck has a ton of ties. It's crazy. You know, it's old, it's rusty. Like, it really is, it's rusty. It needs a new cab, it needs a new box, it needs a lot of work. But I'm tied to it in a weird way. I very much feel like I'm tied to it. I've grown up in this truck. There's just so much that happened with this truck. And I'm gonna tell you even more, but we are getting very, very close to Driven Luck Circuit. I'm gonna see Coy Dillard, the man that saved me when this truck broke down. And yeah, very, very excited for that. All right, I made it to Driven Luck Circuit. I just said hi to Coy, the gentleman who drove me. This is such a cool little track, man. I mean, it's back up in the mountains. We are in Alabama. It's just super, super cool. It's what you would think. Like, it's like in the middle of the field. It's awesome. Coy was very generous and more or less demanded that I'm going to drive the Z. So pretty excited about that. Gives me good practice for the G. So driving went really well for a little bit. Till it didn't. Yeah, I definitely went into the wall. Yeah, definitely went into the wall. Not too bad though. Could have been a lot worse. Hopefully the wind's not too super brutal. Yeah, definitely could have been worse. Got off pretty lucky. Don't mind you the straight. I learned that. All right, the long drive now continues. I barely did any. I've still got 9 hours to go. It is 3:30. I cannot thank that family enough for their hospitality, for everything that they've done for me. They got me home. They got me to Florida. The least I could do was come here and crash one of their cars. I felt so bad. But we were all laughing and joking. I bought a bunch of merch off them, got some racing gloves. I want to support them however I can. And if you guys are even close to Alabama, it's right near the Alabama-Tennessee border, Driven Luck Circuit, please go support this track. It is family owned and operated. They are the most genuine and nice people you will ever meet. And it is a super, super cool track to go and drive. Now, I have, a long, long drive to get back home. Well, to make the adventure even more spicy, driving just about to get into Chattanooga, there was a bunch of cars that suddenly stopped. I moved over to the shoulder because there's a transport, and as I did so, another lady in front of me did the same thing, and unfortunately I did make contact with her bumper. She's okay, everybody's okay. Now I just gotta wait for the cops to get here. So, yeah, is what it is what it is. So, thankfully, yeah, I mean, is what it is. That's all I can say. Fuck. All right, while I go through this Buc-ee's car wash, I figured I'd give you an update. The officer that I dealt with was incredible. Really good guy, even the lady that I was in the incident with. Yeah, I mean, it was a terrible situation. Everybody was fine. Both vehicles are pretty good. She's got a small ding, but everybody kept their head, and it went pretty well. To add to basically the history of this truck, I mean, that adds to it as well. This truck also helped my family move a lot. My kids are very, very fond of this truck. They are probably more excited for me to get it home than I am. It's weird. It felt like, even though we were in Florida, part of the family was missing because this vehicle wasn't there. It's gonna get really loud, so I may not be able to finish it, but I've got still a lot to drive. I did take a nap, and I'm not gonna get home till like 3 in the morning, then I have to go to work. So it's gonna be a long run. I don't even know if I can update again, but damn, this Buc-ee's car wash is intense. All right, to add to the plot, because this is just how my day is going, the car wash has stopped. I'm in the middle of it, and it just stopped. Oh, we're back. We're back. I have an officer in front of me, too. Mainly, I just wanted the windshield clean. It was pretty dirty. This is a super cool car wash, though. Oh, yeah, look at how clean that is. Go Buc-ee's. All right, clearly I am back at home, and so is the truck. And I want to give you guys kind of a breakdown on everything that was done, as well as more or less what happened to it. And we're able to diagnose that now. And I mean, some of my future plans, but before I get into that, I do need a little bit of help. One, the usual like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It actually means a lot. It helps a lot, especially with how crazy this year is going to be. And I've got some really interesting life updates coming very soon. Yeah, very soon. Long story short, everything in Florida is changing because of this year. So let's get into the questions I got and the support that I need. Okay, so the entire idea of this truck is to become like the ultimate towing / road tripping rig. If my family and I want to go to an event, we want to be able to take this thing. So it needs love. I know that already. The box completely needs to be replaced. That's totally fine. The cab, I mean, well, you can see it definitely needs some love as well. I have a couple of options when it comes to this. Now, admittedly, this is actually a kind of a rare cab in the regards of the package that it has. So originally I looked at doing like a cab swap on it, but the more and more I look into it, the harder and harder that's going to be because of a lot of the things that this truck has as features. Things like the Infinity 7 speaker surround, which that's going to get gutted, so it's not a big deal. But having four-wheel drive in a Laramie with leather seats, heated seats, all that fun stuff, in an 06 in particular, because it was kind of a transition year, very difficult to find a cab. And if I can't, then I have to get a different cab, and that means I'm doing a full wiring swap out on it, and that's just not something I want to get into. I would much rather do body work than electrical work, 100%. I can see my mistakes in body work. I don't know my mistakes in electrical. It's just not my strong suit. So I do plan on basically rebuilding a lot of the body on it. Now, where I might need some help is if you guys know of any really good supplies for that stuff, companies that are reputable. I need entire rockers. I may actually go as far as just getting a donor truck and chopping out the whole bottom rocker section. That's how bad it is, and yeah, I definitely need it. So that might solve that issue, but we'll see. The other thing I very much want to do, and I alluded to it, is this has the factory Infinity 7-speaker surround. So it's got like speakers up in the dash. It's old, it's beat up. I really want to get rid of it and redo all of this. So if you know of, essentially I'm looking, I've been out of the audio game for a while. If you know of a good brand that would go into it, I plan on doing the doors. I don't know about doing the dash. It's got a small subwoofer behind the dash. I don't really want to lose this storage, to be perfectly honest. Like, this is really great to have. Paper towels are in there. I don't know if I necessarily want to put a subwoofer in there and remove all of this. I wouldn't mind doing like a small 8-inch behind the dash or something else if you guys can think of it. I don't want to change the layout. I love having the 6-seat. I've actually used it numerous times. All the storage and everything else. A lot of the interior I don't really want to change, but I do want to upgrade the speakers. I do want a good head unit. I want to be able to, it's got to have a screen. I want to be able to use the steering wheel controls. I'm going to wire up backup cameras and even potentially like a backup camera for the trailer. So all of that in mind. So now to get to the big old invoice. Yeah, I'm not sure whether or not I want to talk about how much money I spent on this, but what I can say is it wasn't cheap, but the gentleman over at RLC definitely did help me out on a lot of things. So I think that's why I don't really want to get into the pricing, is because they were pretty phenomenal. So a couple of things to give you guys an idea of what's been done. Essentially, the entire block had to be remachined out. Cylinder 6 is more or less what failed. There's a little bit of damage to a few others, but cylinder 6 was the main issue. And what we believe ended up happening was that that injector had died, that cylinder overheated, and small bits had basically flaked off the piston, because the injector was actually in place and the head didn't look like it had been chunked out. But something had broke off probably on the piston and then bounced around in there, and then finally just took out the cylinder, and the amount of blow-by and everything else took out the rest of it. So that did mean pretty heavy, it required a lot of machine work. Injectors 2, 3, and 6 all failed. The CP3 pump was fine. We sent that out for testing, and it ended up being good. I believe that had been replaced before. And then we replaced those injectors with SNS 30% over injectors. So pretty stoked on that. Means we got a good chunk of fuel to play with. So yeah, machine shop, disassemble, clean the block, bored out and sleeve cylinder 6, bore and home block, bearings, pistons, rods, all that fun stuff went in. New oil pump. They basically polished the crankshaft as well to get all that to work. Got gasket kit, and then we went with a Freedom Series Cummins cylinder head. So brand new head on it, which is sick. Then we also went with the Fleece coolant bypass valve. So needed that. Basically, it helps distribute the coolant and stops hot spots, or hopefully prevents hot spots in the engine. ARP cylinder head studs, so we can really wick this thing up. It's got almost everything in order for us to do that. We replaced the oil cooler, oil pan. The dipstick needed to be replaced as well, which is kind of funny. Bunch of the other stuff. Did the starter, did the batteries while we were in there, did the fan clutch while we were in there. Yeah, a fair bit. Water pump, thermostat, serpentine belts, yeah, and then lots and lots of labor and fluids. But it's completely rebuilt. It's ready to go. The transmission was rebuilt a few years ago. I don't actually know to what level, so I don't know exactly how much power it could handle but we could easily tune this thing up. And that's the other thing I need to get into, is going to be the actual tuning of it. If you are in the diesel world, I've gotten a few recommendations, but I'd love for you guys to tell me, obviously, what tuner we put on it and what tuning company we go with. Once again, I'm not trying to make an immense amount of horsepower. I would like it to be able to tow a little bit better. I would love more fuel economy, because these things are not, they're good, but they're not amazing. And yeah, I just want to do that. It's also going to need things like suspension redone, control arms. I have some connections there, so that's not going to be too big of a deal. But you guys let me know. 06 Cummins, dream build, what would you throw into it? What are some companies you would like to see me work with? Or what are some things that I more or less need to do on it? So I've already done a Mishimoto radiator on it. I've upgraded the turbo that's on it. There's, you know, a couple of little small things here and there, but yeah, it needs to be completely redone. It definitely needs a new windshield. And yeah, and also really the last part to talk about is the incident. So here's a bit of an update on that. So on this truck, the only real damage is this little boop right there, as it kind of caught the center median, and that's it. Little scuff. That's basically it. And I did get the insurance report back, and I was listed not at fault, which is great. Yeah, I'm obviously very happy about that. Essentially, what ended up happening was when we were driving, she locked up the brakes. I swerved over onto the side because there was a transport coming up behind me. And while I was in the center median, if you will, she changed lanes into me, and the damage was done to the side of her vehicle, therefore showing that she changed lanes and hit me. It was an emergency situation for both of us, so I'm hoping that insurance is good with her. I'm not going to seek any damages. This thing needs a rebuild anyways, so not a big deal, but hopefully everything's going okay with her, because that's a rough day. So yeah, that's where we're at. The truck is at home. It needs a lot of work. You guys know what my plans are for it. I know it might seem silly to do all this work to a vehicle this old and this rusty, but hopefully you guys get a bit more of an understanding of how much this truck means to me, my friends, my family, and yeah. And believe it or not, this truck's already got a name, and it actually came from a sticker that was on it for a really long time, which is Sky's the Limit, because the gentleman who did own this, talked about Steve, the salesman, he ended up running a crane company, and that was their motto, was Sky's the Limit. So that graphic will be going back on the truck very soon. And yeah, maybe that's what this is, the Sky's the Limit build. Let's see how awesome we can get with this truck. Let's make the perfect tow vehicle, road trip truck, and go from there. But I really appreciate all the help. Hopefully you guys have dropped for me. Thank you so much for following on this journey. It's definitely a different video. I would like to know if you guys want to see any build content, how you want that done. Was the way that we did the G35 kind of interesting, where I talked about some things and provided some insight while working on it? Let me know. I'm still trying to get a hold of this, even though I've made, you know, YouTube videos for like 10 years and all that stuff. It feels a little bit different now for some reason. So please let me know what you guys want to see, and any and all feedback is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next one.